If you've ever struggled to break down a chicken cleanly, this is exactly why the Japanese developed the Honesuki. Today, I'm breaking down 2 whole chickens using one of my favorite Japanese knife styles, a Honesuki. Not just any Honesuki, but a Manaka Xinguo ATS-34 Honesuki from Syoukon Hamono. I'll walk you through my process for tackling chicken butchery with a Honesuki and show how one chicken can differ slightly from the next. For the first chicken, I'll take you through everything step by step from a top-down POV. For chicken number 2, we'll switch to a slightly different angle with just music so you can really immerse yourself in the process. Before we get started, if you enjoyed this content and what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps out a ton. Let's get into it. Most of the time, I like to start by removing the legs. Make a small incision in the skin connecting the breast to the thigh, pop the joint out, then make a cross cut near the spine. Not only does this show exactly where to cut, but it also visually separates the oyster muscle. The oyster is a small but incredibly tender morsel of meat. Using the top 20% of the Honesuki allows you to dig into the cavity where that oyster sits and recover as much of it as possible. Use the natural weight of the bird to do some of the work for you, helping with joint separation and making it easier to sever one section from another. Next, slice off the tail nub. That usually becomes a dog snack. Separating the thigh from the drumstick is easy. Find the thick line of fat running between the 2 pieces. Cut on the side closer to the drumstick and voila. Repeat on the second leg. My wife isn't a fan of bone in thighs, so I'll debone them here. Once again, the precise tip of the Honesuki really shines. Trace around the thigh bone, also known as the femur, on both sides at a slight angle. That helps preserve some of the meat sitting directly above the bone. Then, with a couple of cuts from underneath, separate the bone from the meat. Finish by trimming away the cartilage knuckle that's often left attached. Boneless thighs are packed with flavor and can even be stuffed and rolled. The more you practice with a Honesuki, the more comfortable you'll become. The anatomy of the chicken doesn't change, only the size of the bird does. Sometimes chicken butchery feels like aerial acrobatics. Other times it feels like floor wrestling. Either way, having a stable work surface really helps. At this point, I remove the lower half of the spine with a lift, twist, and slice straight into the stock pot. For wing removal, I actually prefer starting from the back. From this angle, I can clearly see the joint, making it easy to cut directly through the cartilage in one clean motion. As soon as I feel the knife sink into the joint, I deliberately steer away from the breast. The goal is to remove only the wing, not the wing plus a chunk of breast meat. Again, slightly lifting the bird helps add momentum to the cut. The next part took me years to troubleshoot. To separate the drumette from the flat, cut at an angle that's parallel to the side of the drumette where the joint sits. That usually does the trick. I also tend to leave the wing tips attached. It feels like just a little more goodness to gnaw on once they're cooked. Now for what I consider the most difficult part of chicken butchery, removing the breasts. There are so many ways to do this. Skin on, skin off. Wishbone in, wishbone out. Airline breast, standard breast. In this case, I'm removing the skin because my wife prefers skinless chicken breast. But don't worry, the skin never goes to waste. I season it and air fry it into crispy chicken skin crackers. With this first chicken, I'm leaving the wishbone in place and cutting alongside the breastbone, also known as the keel bone. Don't be afraid to move the chicken around to find your best angle. Once again, this is where the sharp tip of the Honesuki excels. Incision, pull back, incision. The goal is to avoid cutting through the tenders, which are only loosely attached to the underside of the chicken breast. I absolutely love chicken tenders fried with a little honey, just like a child. After removing the breast, I do a quick fat check, trim where needed, and repeat the process on the other side. This time you can clearly see the keel bone, making that first cut a complete no-brainer. The hardest part is usually dealing with the second breast because the carcass constantly wants to roll over towards that breast. One downside to leaving the wishbone in is a little extra meat loss. Some meat remains tucked inside the wishbone itself, and some is lost while cutting around it. Not a big deal for me. The carcass gets turned into beautiful, beautiful, luscious chicken stock and Japanese tare, and afterward I'll usually pick whatever meat remains and eat it as a snack. Unlike the oyster mussels from earlier, at least with the tenders, there's a little more meat to enjoy. Now, for chicken number 2. Enjoy, and I hope you found this step-by-step process useful. See you in the next one. And for the knife nerds that have stuck around, I kind of just want to give you some quick input on this Manaka Xinguo Hamono. I have to say, and this is on record, so I'm a little bit nervous, but for years I have told people that if they want a fantastic double bevel Honesuki, the Keira is my choice. This may have surpassed it. I'm in love with the polish. Beautiful that it's on an ATS-34 blade. That means it won't really change over time. Sometimes carbon steel is nice, but when a polish is this sexy, I'm happy that it will live on. The weight is just absolutely epic. Balanced right at the choil, which is where I want it to be because this knife needs a lot of maneuverability. It's thick at the spine, but thin behind the edge. Yet it just has this really nice sharp bevel. Beautiful vanishing shinogi. The tip, which is arguably, in my opinion, one of the more important aspects of a Honesuki, is sharp and nimble. We have a really nice flat belly profile, just a beauty of a Honesuki. I also want to say, before you enjoy the rest of the video, that I don't claim to be an expert in chicken butchery. It is just something that I love. I'm happy to show you my mistakes so that you can avoid them. It's not about perfection, but one thing I make sure of is that no meat goes to waste. So please, thank you so much for sticking around and enjoy the rest of the chicken butchery.